Papa nous financier là, Papa nous vient devant assoya pour nous dire merci pour toute bénédiction nous. Nous disons merci pour la responsabilité nous gagnons, pour nous capables sauver Timounio. Et puis nous disons merci pour la capacité nous gagnons, pour nous capables accomplir la mission ça. Pour nous là, Papa, nous demandons avec tout cœur nous, avec toute force nous, pour capable protéger nous, pour capable aider nous, pour arrêter nous, qui nous besoin d'arrêter. Tant pis guider nous, tant pis marcher ensemble avec nous, protéger nous chaque, et tant pis faire certain que nous sommes capables d'accomplir la mission que nous décidons d'accomplir. Nous remercions un peu pour tout ça fait pour nous.
We have a story that we love to talk about. Young boy on a beach who's throwing starfish into the ocean. Older man approaches the young boy and says, "Boy, what are you doing?" He says, "Tide is low, the sun is high, and if I don't get them all back into the ocean, they're gonna shrivel up and die." The man points to the boy and says, "Look down the beach, look down the shoreline, there's millions of them or thousands of them, there's no way that you can get them all back. Do you think you can really make a difference?" Young boy thinks for a moment, then just starts tossing starfish back into the ocean, turns to the older gentleman and says, "I don't know, but I know I just made a difference for that one."
Yeah, it's right here. It's right here. Right here. Okay. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Go, 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 go. Allez. Pas quoi là, tout le monde. Tout le monde, tout le monde. Chef, viens à tout. Mets derrière. Mets derrière. C'est sur un ring gagné. Avec gagné. Ça met tu à nous. D'accord.
Very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Thank you. Good morning. It's great to see this many of you out. Thank you, each and every one of you who came out today to support Utah's efforts in the fight against this horrible, evil institution that we call human trafficking. With over 40 million modern-day slaves worldwide, thousands of them throughout the United States. And many of you have known about this issue and have been fighting against it and working here for years, some even decades. This is an institution that's been around since the beginning of time. But it's really only now that the mainstream, that the public is starting to gain awareness. And so a little over 4 years ago, a dear friend of mine who was a superstar in the law enforcement community, who was a specialized agent with a very special set of skills, left his law enforcement career, everything that he knew, his pension, his security, to start a nonprofit called Operation Underground Railroad. They've done jumps everywhere throughout the world, rescued kids, and then helped them get to a safe place with their aftercare programs. Tim Ballard, are you here? Can you come on up so we can recognize you in Operation Underground Railroad?
I'll be very brief. To invoke history, in 1791, when the Haitian population rose up and destroyed slavery in their country. That was led by Toussaint Louverture. And then the abolitionists in America were watching. Frederick Douglass was watching and used that inspiration. And when slavery was finally eradicated legally, because it has not been eradicated in actuality, Frederick Douglass said, "Let us not forget the sons and daughters of Haiti, who are the true pioneer abolitionists of the 19th century." We'll turn the rest over to God and pray for us all as we take our flights this in the next 24, 48 hours and execute this operation. And I am certain we will have success. Thank you so much.
Traffickers. I'm just waiting for your word.
Well, I think we should do 2 arrest teams. And pick them up as simultaneously as possible.
Yes, sir. You're absolutely going to need a job. Your assistance in this.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. We're here to discuss preparations for what we are so excited for. It's a day that we've waited a long time for. And we want to thank my colleague, Attorney General Oknam, who's here with his team, and then our friends at the DCPG, the Judicial Police for Haiti. Our philosophy is it doesn't matter what country the kids belong to or were born in, they're all our kids, and we want to protect all of them. But sometimes people in our own country ask us, why are you going to Haiti? Why does OUR, or why would the Attorney General spend time in another country? We need you here. And our response is, on global crimes like human trafficking, we can't pretend that it just happens in the United States. So we work on it here domestically so that we can protect our friends and allies and also protect ourselves so it never comes into the United States borders.
The U.S. creates the demand. The highest producer and consumer of child pornography is right here in the United States. So we know that it's our countrymen that are causing this. And because we look like those evil countrymen of ours, we can get access quickly to the dark, to the evil. And so the police asked, do you have operators who can go undercover into the belly of the beast, into the darkest places, and find these kids? And I said, yes, we do. Something happened to me once. This was after I'd quit the government and I was already with Operation Underground Railroad. And I was about to go into this compound in Port-au-Prince, Haiti. It was a trafficking center. It looked like an orphanage from outside. It had an orphanage on the wall. And so the police asked us to go in undercover, like we're gonna go buy kids. And I remember sitting outside the gate, and I always fight with this, you know? See, the problem with me is I have 7 kids. So any kid that we're looking to save, the minute I see that kid, oh, he's 6, I got a 6-year-old. Oh, he's 10, I got a 10-year-old. And so it's so easy for my mind just to put, you know, basically superimpose my kid's face, my child's face, on this victim's face. And I'd fight it, and I'd fight it, and I'd fight it. And that's how I would move on, because of those first kind of couple experiences that just almost destroyed me. But as I was standing outside the orphanage, something happened. I looked in, and I saw 28 kids. And that was more than I'd ever seen. And it happened again. Oh my gosh, there's Blaine, there's Jimmy, there's Sam. You know, all my kids are here. And I remember being outside that place. And I thought, I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna try to embrace this. I've gotta buy a kid. These people think we're here to buy kids, and they made it very clear within the first 5 minutes, you know we don't adopt kids, right? You know we sell kids. I'm like, oh, of course, yeah, that's why we're here, you know? And I see this little boy walk around from, you know, this dark outbuilding. He walks into the yard of this place. It's a dirty place, it's stinky, it smells like urine and feces, and it was just horrible. And I went up to this kid and I picked him up. And he was my kid. You know, I saw my kid and he became my kid. So I'm holding him, and my partner is negotiating with the bad guys about the price, and oh, I think you guys want that one, okay. And these horrible people are trying to, you know, they're telling us tips on how to evade the police and how they've done this before, how to get them out of the country. So I picked the kid up, and I want to go into the dark kind of outbuildings that are around this compound, but I don't want to look like I'm being overly curious. So I have kids, so I know how to communicate with kids, and I get him to point in the room, like as if he's going to show me something. And I look over at the bad guys, and I can tell they're like, oh, he wants to show that guy whatever. So it worked. So I got in there, and it just got stinkier and darker. And as I kind of walked into the belly of this dark building, it got quieter and quieter as I got further away from the sounds of the street and the other kids playing outside. And the quieter it got, the better I was able to hear what was always there, right behind me. And it was the footsteps of this little child who was following me. And I flip around and there's this little girl and she's looking at me, and I don't want to cause more attention, so I give her a candy bar. Now again, these kids are starving. She takes that candy bar and she looks at me, and then she looks right back at the little boy in my arms. And without taking her eyes off him, breaks it, like muscle memory, breaks it in half and gives it to him. And I'm just thinking, this is not normal. And then it hit me. Oh my gosh, they're brother and sister. And she's horrified, because how many Westerners have been here and picked up a child, and that child disappeared and was never seen again. And this is all she has. The only adults in her life are trying to sell her.
How old is she? 9. 9? You're 9? How long has she been here? How long has she been here? 4 years. 4 years.
Every 30 seconds, a child is sold. They're sold for sex, they're sold for labor, they're sold for organ harvesting, which is something we're now getting into. There's 6 million children that are forced into one of those 3 categories right now. Modern day slavery really is the plague of our generation. When you consider there's more people enslaved today than ever before in the history of the world, and the world doesn't know. We need to wake them up.
What's up, guys? Can you handle the victor here? 2 virgins, 13 and 14 years old. Wow. So these girls are going to get naked right away.
¿Cuáles son el trato especial o las restricciones para las vírgenes? Porque en el pasado hemos tenido experiencias, están llorando, no quieren.
Que diga eso, que me hable. Yo voy y if there's one girl that says that,
We tell them.
he'll go and they'll be like,
Okay.
firing squad.
15. Me gusta.
What the f*** is this?
It's a subject that nobody wants to think about or talk about. That's part of the problem, right? It's so ugly, it's the worst part of humanity, and yet you've got to do something about it. It's kind of a catch-22. Nobody wants to talk about it, nobody wants to happen, nobody wants to talk about it, nobody wants to do anything about it.
Everybody, it drives me crazy how much everybody is arguing on they would be the biggest abolitionist going back in time. Well, would you? Because you're not doing it now. And it's not that you wouldn't, you just won't look at it.
Because I imagine a lot of people like, oh yeah, that's good, man, that's awesome work they're doing. But they really, sit down, man, like sit down, sit still for 10 minutes, you know, and really look at it. If you did that.
It rocked me to my core to think about, in this day and age, people adults and children are being held against their will and sold by the hour to strangers to get raped, and this is their life.
People ask me, like, who are these dirtbags? Who are these people? And I have to tell them, it's anybody. Anyone you can imagine, anyone you see on the streets. It's professionals, it's doctors, lawyers.
Judgment Day for former MSU doctor Larry Nassar for sexually abusing gymnasts under his care.
You are a doctor. You took an oath to do no harm, and you have harmed over 256 women, and that is beyond comprehension.
The judge also said Nassar was able to get away with his criminal sexual conduct for 25 years.
Here's the thing that's mind-boggling, right, is that it's estimated that there's over 2 million children. I'm not even talking about the adults. 2 million children currently forced to be sex slaves, raped for money. 2 million. What kind of demand, and this is a scary question, what kind of demand justifies that number, 2 million kids? That's a lot of sick, twisted pedophiles.
Jared Fogle arrived here at the federal courthouse this morning. He had nothing to say. He is pleading guilty to conspiracy for receiving and distributing child pornography and also traveling out of state to engage in commercial sex acts with minors.
These guys want 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds. That's who they want. The answer to this question is not popular. People don't want me to say it. They don't want to talk about it. But what is happening in this country, especially in this country, the United States is the highest consumer of child pornography, or what I call child rape videos, because that's what they are. And it's the Western world.
Sheriff's Office, we have a search warrant.
The highest consumers, it's us.
I'm getting cancer. Here's talk to you about your computer, okay?
And this is why. They're sex addicts. Their minds are twisted and sick to want this. I've interrogated dozens and dozens and dozens of these guys over the last 16 years that I've been working in this field. Sure. No one wants to accept what it is. They don't want to believe it. How did you get here? Why do you want this? Why do you want kids? And they all have the same story. I picked up a Playboy magazine when I was 12 years old. And then I got into more hardcore, and then more hardcore. And then the internet came along in my 30s. And oh my gosh, like I could just, with a click of the mouse, I could see anything I wanted. And then the stuff that I had enjoyed since I was a teenager started to wear off. I wasn't getting the fix. I wasn't getting the feeling that I used to get when I was just watching an adult man and adult woman have sex. Barely legal. But that's when I start searching into the queue, to the Google string. Well, that's not doing it for me anymore. Okay, 16. I'm gonna stop there. I'm gonna stop at 16, see what happens. All of a sudden they're at 10. They're at 9. They're at 8. They're at 7. And you think you can find this stuff online? Absolutely. And that's what's creating this demand. That's why Johns get on an airplane and fly to Haiti and Colombia and Thailand, because pretty soon the child porn isn't doing it for them. And they need the child. This is why there's 2 million children forced into the commercial sex trade today.
People weren't talking about human trafficking like they are now. And really it's because of the work and efforts by organizations like Operation Underground Railroad. He will never talk about himself, but Tim is a well-respected author, lecturer, professor, and he could have a quiet life doing that, kind of like Indiana Jones. But he has another side to him, and that's his law enforcement career. He was a respected law enforcement agent for many years. And because his heart is so big and he's so compassionate and wants to protect every child and man and woman that he possibly can in the world, he left the comfort of his badge and his pension and his way of life in law enforcement to several years ago step out with a lot of faith to create Operation Underground Railroad. And the time he and Catherine did it, they had no promise that anybody was going to care.
You don't just jump on a plane and traipse into a country and say, here I am, where can I go save somebody? There are so many things that have to be considered. You're shedding your badge, you're shedding your firearm, you're shedding your authority, you're shedding all the jurisdictional limitations that prohibit people from doing that very thing. But Tim had the courage to do that.
I think there's something to say about Tim's persistence, I guess is the word I would use for him. He wants to be a consistent influence in your life, and he's dedicated, and I noticed the same thing as he got into government work, that he wanted to get in and make a difference and shake things up, and you could tell he wanted to get in there and make something happen.
I grew up in Southern California. Always knew that I wanted to be a federal agent. I just wanted to do that. I don't know why. It was just like inherent. My family wasn't excited about it. My parents thought it was crazy. No one in our family had been military or even generations back or law enforcement. But it was just something that I just wanted to do. So I pursued it. Everything I studied political science, I studied international relations. My first job after graduate school was the CIA, and I worked in the operations center. And my study had been around terrorism and weapons. I graduated from graduate school in December of 2001. So the government was wide open for terrorist experts. And that's what I wanted to do. And as I was learning about what happened at 9/11, I learned that one of the terrorists had come from Mexicali, Mexico, and came through the port of entry into California and there back east, and then helped launch these attacks. And I wanted to get on a border. I spoke Spanish. I thought I want to help investigate and defend against terrorists, potential terrorists that would hurt our country. I got to the office in Calexico, California. I had my dream job. I mean, I was sitting on the border. My office was on the border. I could see the Mexican flag waving outside my window. This was the time when we were finding a bunch of tunnels through San Diego and all the way through the border in California. I was crawling through tunnels, and it was great, but it only lasted for about 6 months. And I was called in by my boss, and he told me that we're starting a new anti-child trafficking group.
We knew that bad people were transmitting and receiving exploitative information, very, very dangerous information, and they were violating children literally, real time.
Julia, ¿cuántos años tienes? 16. ¿Está bien?
And exchanging those imageries and videos on cameras with their cohorts around the world, realized how absolutely pervasive the problem of child exploitation was.
Can you say hi to these guys? Say hi.
Sweet.
A supervisor contacted him and said, hey, we're thinking about starting a child crimes group and we want you to do it. He came home and told me about it, and we were both like, there's no way that we will ever do that. We had 2 little kids at the time. It just sounds so horrific. We didn't think that was something we wanted to bring into our home. My husband has just this light. He's able to see good in the world, and he has a lot of optimism, a lot of strength. I didn't want to see that taken away. We were raising a young family. I didn't want to see that gone. And so we took it very seriously.
My wife and I had vowed that the one thing I wouldn't do was child crimes. So we said no, and I remember going home that night to my wife and saying, you won't believe what they just asked me to do. And she said, well, you're not doing it. I said, I'm not doing it, absolutely not. And she said, we have kids, you can't do it. And I remember a sleepless night that night, and then getting up the next morning and kind of looking myself in the mirror, practicing my rejection talk. And as I was preparing my speech, my wife came up to me, emotional, tears in her eyes. And she said, we're making a huge mistake. She said, for the very reason I thought we couldn't do this or shouldn't do this is the reason we need to do this, because we have kids. Because we know what childhood is supposed to be. And if it's true that there's millions of kids that are forced into that hell, how do we say no? Because we're afraid of our own pain, which is nothing relative to that pain.
But I told him that I had automatic veto power, that if I ever saw anything in him that just the dimming of the lights or anything, that I got to automatically pull the plug, no questions asked, and he would leave that group.
And so I reluctantly changed my speech, and it was just one word, yes, and we got into it. And then something happened that was completely transformative for me. We were doing these child pornography investigations, and one of the kids from the video surfaced, and happened to surface right on the border where I was working.
Not long ago, a horrific video of a 5-year-old boy being sexually abused in the worst way was discovered by U.S. authorities. The boy and his 12-year-old sister, they had been kidnapped and they had been trafficked back and forth between the U.S. and Mexico. Both were sex slaves to a monster of a man. Well, something happened. Divine providence stepped in, and it took place at the U.S.-Mexico border. The boy was seen by a U.S. official who knew who he was, identified the boy in the video.
It was the first time that I was actually seeing one of the kids from the videos. It was an American man who lived in the LA area. He had a big warehouse, and inside his warehouse was a house, like a residential home. And inside that home, there were cameras, hidden cameras everywhere, porn everywhere, toys everywhere. And he'd bring these kids in to desensitize them, and he'd make child rape videos. And as the dust settled in the investigation, this kid ran to me. And I remember he jumped into my arms and just held me. And he was shaking. And he just said to me, with tears in his eyes, holding me and shaking, he said, "I don't belong here." I came home and I walked through the door and I saw my kids running around playing. And I couldn't handle the dichotomy. My brain couldn't handle it. And I shut down. I mean, this is embarrassing, but this is what happened. I remember my knees gave out as I sat there. The room was spinning and I collapsed. Like I fell down on the floor, and my wife thought I was having a heart attack or something, you know, and she ran over to me and just wrapped her arms around me and just held me.
I had a knock on my door one day, and of course I usually keep my door open, but I think I was on a phone call, so I didn't answer the door immediately, but I went to the door. I saw Tim leave, and I asked him, "Hey Tim, I'm done, come on in." He was very, very concerned. I could tell he was perplexed. I could tell that he was emotionally drained. I could tell that he was needing someone to talk to. And he said, "Listen, I really feel like I can do better leaving the government."
Well, if you lost one of your children to one of these evil people, and you'd do anything to get even and get your child back, which some of our folks are trying to do.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and esteemed members of the committee. Thank you very much for this opportunity. My name is Tim Ballard. I'm the founder and CEO of Operation Underground Railroad.
You know, I think our own law enforcement in this country needs to get more involved than they are right now.
In 2006, with the passage of the Adam Walsh Protect Act, Congress opened the doors for U.S. agents to better investigate these cases, especially internationally.
It's hard because a lot of this is offshore where they may not have jurisdiction.
However, I often felt helpless by the fact that the vast majority of the child victims that we would find fell outside the purview of the United States.
It's very difficult because we in the United States have a lot of protections for privacy, especially when it comes to financial transactions. But how do we get the information to see a pattern of sex trafficking?
Before this law was passed, it was passed in 2006. In order to prosecute on the U.S. side an American who was sexually abusing children in other countries, you had to prove that that person had intent to rape that child while standing on U.S. soil. So you can imagine how many prosecutions we had prior to this law, like 0. Unless I could tie a U.S. traveler to the case, I would not be able to rescue the children, even the ones that we were able to identify as being victims. But I could find the kids no matter what. It's outside of the jurisdiction, and I understood that. However, that doesn't mean that we couldn't be doing more.
It takes a little bit of an effort, but that's what we've got to do, and we've got to fight like hell to try and get these kids back and get them back on track. But in a lot of cases, once they're gone, they're gone.
We need to find some partners that are like-minded. Is there a way that, we can help each other?
Yeah.
Because we're in the same kind of business. Who's got big lists that we can leverage me and say, we'll help you, you help us.
Have you ever connected it?
I met Tim through, I think, a series of coincidences that led me to one of his books. He's a tremendous writer. Tremendous researcher. I mean, he's really bright. So I knew him as an author, and we became friends, and I didn't know that he had this secret double life. I was coming in, I don't remember where it was, but I was coming into town, and he was in town, and he said, hey, do you mind if we meet and talk? I said, sure. I said, I'm going to be staying in the hotel, this hotel, and she just come up, and he said, well, why don't we meet in a conference room? Okay.
Wanting the world to wake up to what's going on in 2 million children are sex slaves.
And he reached under his shirt and he pulled a federal badge out on the chain and he sat there. He looked at everybody and said, am I in trouble? Am I going to prison? What is this?
It's the fastest growing criminal enterprise in the world. I go back to 19th century America to the slave problem, and we congratulate ourselves. We eradicated slavery. It's bullcrap. We've not eradicated it.
And he explained what he was doing, and explained that he needed to get out of working with the government, and he had a way that we could really make an impact, but they needed $1 million to start.
$10,000 to put a jump team together to go on a team if it's overseas, I'm assuming.
Yeah, we have jump teams that do this. They're ex-Navy SEALs. They're people like me who are willing to do this.
And I happened to be with an attorney, and he was sitting with me, and I asked a whole bunch of questions, and my attorney said, no, you can't. What happens if something goes wrong, blah, blah, blah. If you're raising money and it's on the border and these guys you're in Texas.
Glenn, aren't you doing really spying on people? And isn't that what this is? That people are using the internet and the privacy of their own home? I'm not condoning the action, I'm just saying that.
You have child pornography? You're damn right I would. I would do it through law enforcement, and I would do it exactly legal. But I mean, this is child trafficking.
Tim is the most sincere, most honest, honorable man I think I've ever met. And I said, I'm in. We'll raise your first $1 million.
We're not saying we become a police force.
No, I'm just worried that, they bust down the wrong door and then,
Bring it on. I will promote, I will do, I will.
But when you
I'll help develop with you. I mean, my time, my network, everything is at your disposal.
I had a great uncle and a great grandfather who both died in the notorious concentration camp in the South. They were fighting for the North. I didn't know that. Nobody in my family knew that. They were fighting to free the slaves. They did it. Why can't I?
Abraham Lincoln, when he was grappling with the Emancipation Proclamation, the nation didn't want him to do it. Even in the North, they didn't want him to do it. And he went through something. In 1862, his son died. And he got extremely empathetic. And he started even turning to God and praying like he never had before. Historians have called it a Damascus Road experience for him. Then he just said, come hell or high water, I'm doing this. No one in his cabinet really wanted him to. And he says, I'm doing it. And he changed the course of the war and changed the course of history by making the war about human freedom, liberating the captive. And then the whole thing changed, which led to the 13th Amendment and so forth. This is what we all need to do. Stop putting the walls up. These are real kids and they don't have anybody. And if we don't open up, no one's gonna open up. But when you do open up, it hurts a little bit. But then you become so much more effective in what you're trying to do. And ideas and inspiration, I'd argue even miracles start happening when you do that.
Operation Underground Railroad is a fairly new organization, just over 2 years old, but it's captured a lot of media attention with its missions to rescue child slaves throughout the world.
India, Haiti, Mexico. They go into the darkest corners of the world and work with law enforcement to rescue children from slavery. Since its inception, a little over 2 years ago, they've helped authorities arrest 157 people in 12 different countries. Most of that work...
I never dreamed that I would work in Haiti. I didn't know anything really about Haiti until I learned about a little boy who was born in Utah, U.S. citizen, and was kidnapped in Haiti from his church, where his father was the pastor. And that little boy was taken and he was kidnapped. I read about it in the local newspaper and I just had to do something about it. I thought that I could make it into a US case and I couldn't because it wasn't. It was a Haitian case. The man, the father of this boy who I met, who changed my world, is Gesno Marty. And Gesno is sitting right here. Gesno, just stand up. This is Gesno Marty. Hey, Gesno. And I have so much to say about Gesno. We went to Haiti to look for his son, but the only way for us to go to Haiti would be we had to leave our jobs. I had to leave my job because I didn't have enough leave from work. I loved my job. I love working for Homeland Security. These are the best people on the planet doing the best work. And all the colleagues I had floated this idea to before in the weeks leading up said, "You're crazy, don't do this, you're crazy." And John Lyons looked at me and he started off with, "You're crazy." And I'm like, here I go again, you know. But he said something, he said, "You're crazy if you don't try this."
I was encouraging overtly, but in my heart of hearts, I thought, that's gonna be a tough go. That's gonna be a tough go to leave the security of the US government and go save children around the world.
3 years old, Gardy, his name was Gardy. They kidnapped him from the church where Gesno was the pastor. They took him, this little boy, and they trafficked him. And this happens all the time in Haiti. I remember reading the story and there was a picture of Gesno. And my heart just melted as a father, just melted for him. And I thought, I have enough experience to know very little is being done to find this little boy.
Well, he was 3 when they took him, now he's 10. When that first happened, I couldn't sleep at night. I couldn't even get into my house and sleep because as a father, my job is, getting my son back. I spent months before I could even get into a house and sleep inside. One of the suspects, I know him, Usually, I don't know for everywhere, but in Haiti, people who kidnap others, they don't do that randomly. They know their victims, Even when the legal authorities say there's nothing they can do about it. One of the time I talked to them, they asked me to bring them a solid lead, and they will come and destroy whatever to get him back to me. But I have to get the lead. This one, and I have no means for doing that. So, sometimes when people are in holidays, And I took my vehicle and going into the mountain, trying to, in a public open market, trying to see if my boy might come there, and a very long trip.
What's your drink like?
I feel that it is my duty, it is my responsibility to get him back. And I will not let go.
We got to Haiti and we worked with law enforcement, and we went in there looking for Gardy, and we never found him. What we did find was two things. We found that this child was trafficked through what looked to be like an orphanage. It wasn't an orphanage. And we were asked by the Haitian police to go undercover with hidden cameras and go into this place that was selling children. They were selling children for $10,000, and then they raised the price to $15,000. The traffickers were selling kids, and we were able to dismantle that organization. And we had to buy 2 children in the process. We had to buy 2 children. And they were the key to getting the other kids out. You want this? Be careful with this, okay?
Okay. 17 now.
After we got those kids out and his son was not there, and I said, Gaston, I'm so sorry. Your son's not there. He's not. There's 28 children that were rescued, but his son was not there. I started to cry, and Gaston was crying, but he only cried for a little bit, and then he popped his head up, and he said, "Don't you realize what just happened?" And I said, "What?" "Yeah, what just happened?" And he's smiling now, and I don't know why he's smiling, because he's a very smiley guy, and he has a light about him, and I learned what that light was, because he said, if Gardy had never been kidnapped, then your team never would have come here. And these 28 kids would be for sale or be sold. And I said, yeah, I guess I never thought of it that way. And then he said maybe the most profound thing that anyone's ever said to me. He said, if I have to sacrifice my son so that these 28 kids can be rescued, he said, that's a sacrifice I'm willing to make. And that's when I knew that we would never leave Haiti, because of the spirit of that Haitian man, who then, by the way, went to the police station the next day and he said, I will take home any of those children that were rescued in the name of my son. I will take them home. And he took 8 of those children home that day. And he is their father today in Haiti. And so you see, we could never leave Haiti after that. We decided we had to do more operations. We had to dig deeper, look for Gardy, dig deeper. The more we go looking for Gardy, a funny thing happens. Every time we look for him, we find other kids. I mean, Gardy is the kid whose story created Operation Underground Railroad.
What's in the video? What's in it? How old is he in the video? Huh? 14. We got him a 14-year-old right here. Yeah, 14 in the video. All right. Yeah, have you the girl too? You've been the little girl. That's what I like. I like little girl. You like little girl? You like little girl? What's the youngest little girl you've ever? C'est la PPTA ou les gens. Yes. 10? 10 years old? Motherfucker!
I sat across from these guys, as they told me about the children that they had been raping, and they laughed about it. And they laughed and they scoffed. And they said, you get to do it next. And it's horrifying, horrifying. Now, this was on Super Bowl Sunday, and this is where the story gets very interesting.
On Super Bowl Sunday, a lot of Americans having those Super Bowl parties, hot wings, watching the big game. But a local nonprofit organization that fights human trafficking spent their Super Bowl weekend in Haiti.
I'm about to take the 11-year-old. I'm about to take your youngest.
Timothy Ballard and his team at Operation Underground Railroad worked undercover pretending to purchase young girls for sex. Ballard says the men sold him 20 minors as young as 11 years old.
It was Super Bowl Sunday, February 5th, 2017. We had set up this operation that what looked like it went flawless.
In Operation Underground Railroad, we always want to ensure that if these rescued children cannot go back to their parents, then they go into vetted safe houses, orphanages, rehabilitation centers. So our aftercare team, led by Ms. Jessica Mass, who is here with us today, spent weeks liaisoning with partners in Haiti, not just Guesno and his safe house, but others whose names cannot be shared now for their own protection.
We'll go into a country, and the first question we ask, if the police or that government wants to work with us, the first question we ask is, what kind of aftercare capabilities are you aware of? These kids, so many of them, there's no home to go home to. It's not like this happy story all the time where it's like, oh, your loving family has been waiting for you in the garden, and the trees are there, and the beautiful flowers, and just go hug them and all is well. I mean, generally that's not the case. I wish it were, but generally the fact that there was no family, or the family was part of the problem, that's how they got trafficked.
And that's where everybody else screws it up. It's where we screwed up. That's the reconstruction part. The ending of the slavery was good. Now, how do we make sure that we provide the tools to be able to make it and to be able to have a fair shot at something that you've never experienced before? I can't even imagine the scarring that they have. And to be able to see them turn their lives around, remarkable.
We laid out the whole operation. You saw from the video the beautiful Calico Beach Club. We have to play the role of very wealthy sex tourists, and so we had the whole operation set up, and it went beautifully.
When police arrived, they arrested 9 men from 3 separate human trafficking rings and liberated 29 victims.
Our Haitian partners did an amazing job. We made the arrest. We got the girls immediately to the area where we were assured that they would get the support they need.
We were so excited. We were excited that these girls were finally going to have hope and healing. It was just a couple days after that I received the phone call.
We unfortunately got some very frustrating news a few days after the operation.
The traffickers were being released and that all the girls were released.
They get released. They get freed. They pay money to the right people, to the judges. I remember when we got that word, I remember Jessica, Matt, we were in tears. We were in tears. We couldn't believe that these kids could be put in harm's way again.
Half the girls had family members that showed up, and the other half had traffickers that showed up for them.
These guys who were laughing about raping children were now laughing their way home. We didn't know what to do. We had some long talks about it, and with Guesno and Dimitri, and they just said, please don't give up. Don't give up. There are good people in this government that want this problem to go away. And what happened was what we hoped would happen. The good people who didn't know what happened to us, they came to us. The good people came to us and they said, we didn't know this truth. We didn't know what had happened, but we will not stand for it. And I'm looking at the good people right now who came to us. The job's not quite done, but it's almost done, because now we need to go back and we need to rearrest every single one of these traffickers. And it will be a message to Haiti, to America, to the whole world, that there are good people everywhere that will stand up for this, that there is light. In this dark world, there's light. If we don't become that light, there is no light.
Moi, je suivre la parole de mon collègue.
I was listening to your word.
C'est moi pour dire merci.
I should be the one to thank you guys.
Parce que c'est un choix que vous faites pour aller aider dans le pays.
Because you choose to come help me in my country.
Les vini, moi prends poste commissaire gouvernement.
When I become Attorney General,
moi joue un dossier Calico Beach, traffic d'êtres humains.
I saw that case in my office. I saw that case about the trafficking in Calico Beach.
Donc, moi te dis, m'a fait avec méthodologie. 1, m'a révoqué juge qui est impliqué là-dedans. 2, m'a planifié une opération pour m'arrêter les gens qui étaient là-dedans encore.
First, what I said, I'm going to fire all the judges. Second, I'm going to go and get the other people.
Moi rencontré le président de la République.
I met the president of Haiti, Jovenel Moïse.
Pour me dire si vous pas voulu pour me faire bataille, ça m'a quitté job là.
I tell them if they don't want me to do this work, I'm not going to work anymore.
Première partie c'était révoquer juge.
The first part was to fire those judges.
Moi fini avec ça.
And I've done this.
Mais en même temps, ils envoient des menaces.
But at the same time, they try to
Okay.
Verbal.
Mais je n'ai pas peur.
But I'm not scared.
Parce que moi, je veux continuer cause là.
Because I want to keep going this cause.
Donc, au lieu pour dire merci, m'a mettez avec vous et puis n'a continuer lutter comme ça.
Instead of telling me thank you, I will be working together with you to keep working.
Nous allons continuer bataille là.
And we are going to fight.
This guy's coming up to our car. Where should we walk and see how bad
it is? We finally have our eyes on what's going on. We're shifting our mindset. There's 2 of them that we still need to verify, and we're going to have reconnaissance teams running the rest of the day. It limits what we want to do during the day. We would rather not do a snatch and grab on the side of the street in the middle of the daytime. It's very hard to sneak up to people with the way this traffic is and do that effectively. It's very low chance. I'm talking like 15% chance of actually getting these guys. So everyone knows, Andrew knows this area we're going to better than anyone. He's lived there for periods of his life. So he knows this better. Honestly, he knows this better than the police that are putting us in it. He knows this area.
In a nutshell, Top of the Trees perspective, our activities tonight are going to take place in Patientville, which is a wealthier part of Port-au-Prince where there's several hotels. There's a lot of working, there's a lot of prostitution going on. That's where, for Haiti. And it's the place where foreigners come. If you're a foreigner, you're going to come here, you're going to stay most likely in Patientville. And so that's what attracts some of the nefarious activities.
So any questions about the area, we're going to pull up Google Maps. We've dropped pins on everything. So everyone's going to get a good visual of the area that we're looking at.
Okay guys, as we're doing this, tinted windows, and I hope I seen lights back there. There shouldn't be lights back there.
No, they need to turn those off.
Okay, we are in an unmarked van. This is a van that is used for taxis. In a few minutes, I'm gonna have to put my windows down because it's not known to have taxis, you know, having their windows up freezing.
I understand. In a nutshell, the bird's eye view here is we're going after 3 different targets, okay? And one of them's a female. This is our ace in the whole mission. If everything else fails, we're getting this chick tonight. She's awful. Andrew can go into more detail.
Is she going to be like out in the street? Is she like a pimp? She's got some prostitutes working for her. Do you know what we're gonna be looking for?
Yeah, she's into trafficking, and she's a boss. She's the head of a cartel. Okay, she's like the captain of the mafia.
Our hotel's right here, Best Western, Patientville, right? She's literally like 2 blocks away and 1 down, typically. But she kind of moves within, like, I would say a 1 block radius of that spot.
She's crossing the street, That's her right there, crossing the street with a white Benz. That's her right there. That's her right there. That's the bus right there.
She does not like this.
That's the bus right there.
All those girls are working for her. She's their pimp. And she is number one. She pimps out young girls, and she has the legal girls on the street visible, but she has a little house back there where one of our operators has seen underage.
We're now moving
girls. You know how long that car has been behind us?
It just got behind us.
Just came behind us.
It just got behind us.
Let's just pay attention to it.
Dimitri, it's possible we have a tail. It's possible we have a tail behind us.
Oh, okay.
Hey, never mind. We're turning off.
No,
We're good. If there's any like holes in the logic right now, anything glaring that anyone's thinking about, this is like the time to beat it to death, because this is all coming together like very quick, and they're guarantee there's more things.
You know what I want to do is start with a prayer. What about your special prayer?
You want me to pray that prayer?
I do, yeah.
All right, we'll just like bow our heads and I'll sing it real quick.
Okay.
Yivorecha Yehovah vayishmorecha, Ya'er Yehovah panav ilecha v'yunecha, Yisa Yehovah panav ilecha, vayisim lecha Shalom. May Yehovah bless you and keep you. May Yehovah let his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. May Yehovah lift up his countenance upon you and give you shalom. Amen. 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 I will teach you. No.
part that nobody really wants to talk about or do, but it's the part that we probably need to know the best. Somebody gets shot or stabbed or severely injured enough that they have to be taken to a higher level of care. We've got a number of these kits that are going to be spread out in the vehicles. These are what we call blowout kits. So if any, is anybody in here familiar with medicine besides the fire mentioned? Emergency. Okay, so then none of this stuff is going to matter to you. However, at that time that somebody gets hurt and if somebody yells medic, everything else needs to stop. Nothing else matters because we could lose a person at that point, right? So the Haitians are going to do whatever they're going to do, but this group in here, we're going to keep that person alive.
So our target's name is Sho, and she's a pimp who is going to be on a street corner about 2 or 3 blocks from here. We intend to take Sho and try and get, if we can, use her to get information. We've got 8 other targets that are out there that were stupidly released. We know that she paid $80,000 to get to someone to get out of jail. We really want to understand where she got $80,000 from. We believe a criminal organization supports her. We've been to her house. She's not living large at all. So she's backed by someone. So we want to find out who paid you the $80,000 and who within the government did you give that $80,000 to. In addition, we want to just scare the living daylights out of her and use the momentum and kind of fear. Just listen, the next 5 minutes of your life are going to determine the next 50 years of your life. This is our plan. Once the Haitians come, we'll bring
It's their country, of course. So
right.
We do what they want.
Perimeter 1 and perimeter 2, as long as we got eyes looking out board with guns while we're in the middle, that's the only goal here. We're making these things like really simple. Look, we don't all rush to the middle of the action, you know, and that's what rookies do, right? That's what, you know, idiots do. They have a job, and even if they don't like their job, like even if it's not the cool job, this is their damn job.
I think it goes without saying, like we don't want them to know where we're staying tonight at all. And if we need to take different routes or just be really familiar with who's behind you and who could be following you, even if it's a little motorcycle, those guys are the worst. Motorcycle guys are bad, and they're going to be informants. So we want to sleep safely, and those driving to the airport tomorrow, we don't want any issues.
Hey guys.
Hey Jim.
Hey.
The guys downstairs, there's
10 guys, okay, 17 guys altogether from my side.
Perfect. The recon one, we're like 3 minutes to deploy.
Oh, he's driving down there. He's waiting.
Cher Papa, nous qui dans ciel là, Papa, nous venons devant assoya pour nous dire merci pour toute bénédiction nous. Nous disons merci pour la responsabilité nous gagnons, pour nous capables sauver Timounio. Et puis nous disons merci.
All right, you guys, up there where the lights are, côté libre, where the lights are is about where she's at. I see it. It's this car pulled over. Okay? So machine ça, c'est mon sayo.
Are we close, man?
Yeah, it's right here.
It's right here, right here.
Okay. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3.
Go, 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 go! Viens à vous! Mets la tête! Monsieur sont américains, américains! Ok, d'accord.
Right.
From blocking. We'll become that perimeter. Just block it.
American. Okay, I'm a citizen of America.
Put a light on it. Put a light on it. These are condoms. All these are condoms.
Turn the light. Who's got a light?
Condoms. These are all a huge bag of condoms.
You can't grab all this evidence. Yeah, we gotta grab all. Okay, there's minors on scene. And he's got condoms. He's got sex toys. You got condoms in there.
Wait, put a light on it.
Oui, là, madame. C'est super rapide. Vous section de faire ça. De l'autre monde encore.
Avancez. 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 Laissez rapide.
Jean ouais m'chita là c'est comme ça m'chita et yo met pas qu'on voit ça m'a pas fait mentir pas qu'on voit ça donc là m'a fait mentir m'a fait mentir sur quel m'a fait mentir sur quel
I'm a citizen of USA.
Matt, take a photo of them.
Yo, I'm a citizen of USA.
Whatever.
Okay?
Whatever, dude.
And ex-colonel. Okay? So you say I'm an ex-colonel. Yeah. I'm a citizen of USA now.
Everyone, same vehicles.
Same vehicles. Okay.
Même machine.
How many guys got wrapped up right there?
Dude, it was the American?
Yeah.
Tim, is that a big deal? That we got an American maybe? Is that alright?
He's saying he's an American, yeah.
He was trying to get the
I don't think he was. No. He was saying I'm an American. So we got more than we bargained for on that one for sure. Hey, where are we? Are we at the precinct? This is very important. Like, I know I said it, but these guys are confirming again. Those were the girls, the same girls that she brought. Same girls. And we think that they live with her. She keeps them captive in her own home.
Non. Tout le monde là, tout le monde l'a prêté dans la prison. Tout le monde majeur pour moi. Mais tout le monde a vu expliquer ce qui passé, ça nous a fait l'autre droit. D'accord? Tout le monde a vu expliquer.
I'm a citizen of USA. Yes, I understand you. So can I talk to somebody to explain what's going on? I'm a citizen of the United States.
The one, the lady, that's the one she get arrested already.
Oh yes, that's Calico Bay. Yeah. Calico Bay. Yeah. And the girls, same girls she brought to Calico. They're minors. Okay. Tell them. They're 13, 12, 13, 14 years old. You caught her red-handed. Okay.
Monsieur, thank you. You're an inspiration to all of us. This is another example of bravery and the strength of the Haitian people.
Thank you. Thank you, my colleague. Mais l'essentiel pour moi, ces gestes, ça me permet de faire plus d'efforts.
What's important for me is that we've made this effort and we made this happen with a lot of preparation and work.
Et moi prêt pour nous collaborer ensemble, pour nous continuer la bataille, parce qu'il faut que nous arrivions à zéro human trafficking.
Yes. And I'm prepared to collaborate with you so we can keep up this work to zero human trafficking.
Let her rub his stomach.
We get the kids out. 4 kids are pulled out of these dens of nightmares, and they're in our safe house. Jessica Mass, our director of aftercare, is with them, and they start to open up. They start to talk. And the one little girl, the youngest of them, starts to cry, starts to tear up. And she said, "This is the first time that I've ever felt hope that I can remember." And she proceeded to tell us this story about how when she was about 6 or 7 years old, she was kidnapped in the wake of the earthquake. Her parents were killed in the earthquake, like so many parents were, and she was left an orphan instantly. And this nice woman comes up, tells her that she'll take care of her and to come with her. This was happening all over in the wake of the earthquake. In the case of Rosie, I mean, she was 6, 7 years old, gets a hold of her, promises to take care of her, and instead puts her into a life of sex slavery. And this was so crazy. She said, "It's amazing that you guys came and rescued me on January 12th. She said, "It was January 12th, 8 years ago, when the earthquake struck." Hey! Hey, buddy. Hey, how are you? This little girl was in the most obscure country in the world. Not only that, she was in the most obscure, darkest corner of that most obscure country, just wallowing in hell, far from anyone who possibly could care. You're so big. A photo? Where? It took her 24 hours after the rescue to even talk, because she said she couldn't believe that anyone would come for her. Santa Claus? Who's that?
Santa Claus.
Santa Claus? He came? It's what we are trying to do. Santa Claus came here? We intentionally go to the darkest corners of the earth where there is no hope and find these kids. And what that does, apart from liberating children, what that does is it provides hope for everybody now.
You got so big.
I mean, where there was no hope, there's hope everywhere. If we can continue to grow our operations and continue to get the support we need, there is hope everywhere for the first time. Okay, scoot over. We gotta have a talk. We gotta have a talk right here. Okay, what's your name? Hey.
You gotta talk to Poppy.
Hey, what's your name? What's your name? Wait, no, not yet. What's your name?
My name is
Colleen.
Jean-Baptiste Cadet.
Colleen Jean-Baptiste
Cadet Baya.
Yeah. What's your name, buddy?
Jean-Baptiste Cadet.
We found that the traffickers were selling kids, and we were able to dismantle that organization. And we had to buy 2 children in the process. We had to buy 2 children. And they were the key to getting the other kids out. And we've told that story many times. But what's special about those 2 children is that I formed a special bond with them. And when we were driving from the orphanage to to the Sting house, to the hotel, this little boy jumped up into my lap. And I'm supposed to be this, hard criminal. After the rescue was done, my wife and I couldn't stop thinking about them. Him and his sister. They were the two kids. And so we started to work towards adopting them. That was almost 4 years ago. And I just got the email today. The decree came out of Parquet. And their names are now Ballard. They're my children. If I lived in Haiti, I could take them home right now. So all we have to wait for now is passports and visas and that. And then they come home to Utah. Where's Cole and Colleen gonna sleep? We have one extra bedroom, right?
Yeah, but where's Daniel gonna sleep?
He's gonna sleep with the boys. He's gonna bunk with the boys. With Luke.
There are days that I'm like, Tim and I are like, what? Why do we have all these kids? but it just, like you look at this little guy and he is so loved. And just by virtue of the fact that he was born in a family, and that automatically gives him access to this love that we don't even have to think about. It's just there. And there are so many children around the world that don't have that, and that could. There just shouldn't be this much excess with that many children in need.
I'll find him. It's something I don't want to talk about it because I know I will find him. I will find him. One day something will happen, I'll find him.
One thing on my bucket list, what I want to do is I want to help stop human trafficking.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I belong to an organization called Operation Underground Railroad. There are over 2 million children who are stolen.
Wow.
And they are abused sexually. And it's unbelievable what happens. And I belong to that organization, and we are trying to stop that. It's really...
What do you do?
A man called Tim Ballard, and he used to work for the FBI, but he's now gone on his own. So he partners with governments from other countries, and they go in and pretend to be traffickers. So they get people to bring kids in, and they pretend to buy those kids. And then they catch the people who are bringing the kids in.
How much does it cost them to free a child?
Anywhere probably from $12,000 to $50,000 an operation.
I'll give you $100,000 if you'll get me 10 children out of slavery.
Awesome! Thank you!
Tony, when you did that $100,000, that just rocked me. I was raised in a Catholic orphanage from the time I was 7 till I was 19. But out of our savings, I can't match you, but I'd like to give $10,000 with your gift.
Awesome, that's incredible. You're the best, that's awesome. That's beautiful. Thank you, man. That's beautiful. 10,000 more. Give her a hand right here, 10,000 more. One more? Another 10,000. Let's have a hand for him. Nice job. 10,000? Go see her. There's another 10,000. 10,000? 5,000? You got it. I'll match you. You too? Awesome. Give these guys a hand. Oh, that's such hard. That's awesome. How many are touched and inspired by what these people have done and what you've done? Once you do something like this, you'll never go back. It'll be part of your life forever.
There's no more fear, and maybe we'll stay here to hold on to. There's one thing you should know. They won't come round here no more. They won't come round here. They won't come round here no more.
They won't come round here no more.
Hey guys, Tim Ballard here. Thank you so much for watching Operation Toussaint. You might be watching this in a movie theater, you might be watching this from your home computer, from your iPhone, whatever it is. You're probably experiencing the same thing that I'm experiencing every time I watch this. I've watched this film with hundreds of people leading up to this point, and they all feel this way. I mean, you're ready to chop your right arm off to go rescue a kid. And these people come to me and they say, what can I do? How can I help in this mission? And sometimes I can't give them the specific answer they want. But right now, I can. Right now, I can give you a clear mandate, a clear mission, a call to action to get involved right now. And I need you to go right now, take your phones out, take your laptops out, go to ourfilm.org/help. And you're gonna see 3 very specific options that you can do right now to get involved. The first one is become an abolitionist. It costs money to rescue kids, okay? And it's about $2,500 to take a child out of slavery. It's about $10,000 to take that kid out and restore that child to full health. Just so you know the numbers we're dealing with. That's what we need to rescue kids. Now, about 40% of our rescue operations are funded by donors who become abolitionists. An abolitionist is someone who is a recurring donor, who gives $5 or more every month. We need abolitionists because these recurring donations help us to project what we can afford to do. And so becoming an abolitionist is so important to us. And so we encourage you in that first option, become an abolitionist. And when you do that, you get this painting behind me called The Underground Railroad. It's an inspiring piece. On the left side, it has the heroes of the 19th century, those original abolitionists who did so much to liberate the captive. And on the other side of the railroad are the modern day abolitionists, people who you'll recognize, celebrities and other people who have gotten involved in the cause, who have contributed in ways to help us and others rescue children and adults and people from this horrible thing called human slavery and human trafficking. So become an abolitionist in that first option. If you want to get even more involved and spend a little more money to the cause, you are invited to purchase this amazing kit. The kit includes a DVD of Operation Toussaint, which is the film you just saw, and then the follow-up to the film, which is this 5-episode DVD set called Finding Light in the Darkness, which is me taking you behind the curtain, behind the scenes, and introducing you to some of the players that you met in Toussaint, and really taking you deep into this thing, who these people are, what they really do, what drives them, what motivates them. It's really getting into the heart of our mission. And then you also get in this kit these 2 books that I wrote. One is called The Covenant, Lincoln and the War, and one is called The Covenant, One Nation Under God. This is the story of America. It's the story of George Washington and the Revolutionary generation, and Abraham Lincoln and the Civil War, and the things that they learned to elevate the nation and elevate people from a state of darkness into light. The very thing we're trying to accomplish today by liberating the captives and liberating slaves today. So you get this entire kit, which brings you even closer to the cause and will inspire you in your lives. And then if you want to get even more involved and pay even more into the cause, there's a third option for you, which is called Fund a Need. This is when you kind of really get your hands dirty. You get to get really involved in what we're doing, and we're going to list specific needs that we have right now. Maybe it's a forensic laboratory that we're building in Arizona. Maybe it's a forensic lab in Singapore or Thailand. Maybe it's a specific operation that we need help with right now, or a specific need with people who we're trying to rehabilitate. We always have very specific needs, and they're more costly, but when you fund those needs, you really get close to the action, and you'll work with our people at Operation Underground Railroad who can kind of guide you through the process. You can even customize a donation, and in this third option, your donation is tax deductible completely, and you're working directly with our foundation. So these are 3 ways you can get involved right now. We encourage you, don't wait, do it now. Your acts right now will lead to bringing people from dark into light, helping us end slavery which plagues this earth. Thank you so much, guys, and remember, the portal into all these options is ourfilm.org/help. Thank you.